WJG Sports. We journal great.
Hello, everybody. Wherever you may be watching, this is the Just Like Bruddas podcast back again. It's been since, I think the last time we had a show has been since May 2021
Yes,
for
it was.
previewing last year's state football championships. But if you forgot who we were, my name is Laika Abibi. People call me Striker because Laika's hard enough to pronounce. And my brother in crime, Kai Jones, is on the other end in Goldsboro. Of course, Kai, it's great to be back podcasting with you again. How are you feeling?
Feeling excited, man. We got basketball playoffs coming up. That's what we're here to talk about today. It's been a very interesting time over the last 7 to 8 months since the last time we podded. I think it's going to be exciting. We got a really good playoff run coming here.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And yes, we will be previewing the recently announced North Carolina High School Athletic Association state playoff brackets, which were finalized yesterday, which as of this recording is Saturday. And we will begin with the 1A classification, and we'll be doing the women's basketball side of it first. So who are some teams, Kai, that stand out to you in the 1A classification that you think could make a run to the state championship, and what are some potential matchups that you'd want to see during the state playoff run?
Well, we got to take a look. Birdie gets the 1 seed, Bertie. That's big time for them. Wilson Prep, the 2 seed. I've been watching what North Duplin's done all year, so I'm interested in them. For Quemmons, Falls Lake Academy, of course, Northside Pinetown, and I think you can never really count out Southside when you have a girl like Kanaya O'Neal, who's been one of the top players in the state pretty much since she came into high school basketball. And I think when you look at the first round matchups, I don't see anything that really too much intrigues me, but I am interested in the second round potential matchup between Southside and Bertie. Kanaya O'Neal is the type of player. Last year, she led her team, I believe, to the third round, which was 2 games away from a state championship. So with her, you could never discount her possibly going into Bertie and having a major game and giving us an upset to start the playoffs with in the second round. Other than that, the potential for Falls Lake Academy and Wilson Prep in round 4, very exciting. Wilson Prep, of course, their boys won it last year. Now the girls this year with the infusion of some younger talent coming in. They are now one of the very top teams in the state, regardless of classification, in my opinion.
I like your thinking. I mean, there are a number of really good players across the 1A East classification, from Emerson Thompson at Falls Lake Academy to Jamaria Freeman, Jayla Hicks, and Madison Pounds, and Silence Davis at Wilson Prep, Leilana Harris at Perquimans, and of course another team, Pamlico County. Talent-wise, they had a little bit of a drop-off from the last couple of years because, of course, they made 2 great runs to the state championship recently. But they are a team to watch. They'll probably have one of the very best coaches in the state in April Rose, so you never know what they can do. And I guess as a brief aside to going to the West, the team to watch, of course, is the number 1 seed Murphy. Murphy has won the last 2 state championships, and I believe they are 46-1 in the last 2 years going into this season, and they should be like 23-3 this year. With them and also Mountain Heritage, who won the 2019 2A state title, and Mitchell as well. Those 3 teams for me would be the 3 teams to watch in the West.
And then also too, you mentioned for Quemmons, potential third-round matchup with Falls Lake Academy as well would be an interesting one to watch.
And also of note, Kanaya O'Neal is averaging just under 31 points per game, which seems like nothing for her because she's just been doing that her entire career. But yeah, Southside walking into your gym potentially is rough for Bertie, but Bertie is a very talented team, and they are, to me, deserving of the number 1 seed. Although I'm sure others will argue against that. But I believe this the 1A classification will be very interesting for sure. But Bertie's got 4 players averaging double figures, so it should be interesting. Should be interesting.
They're probably the best first round matchup in that 1A East that I look at is maybe Tarboro versus Riverside. I mean, I know that they've played each other before, but anytime it's Tarboro and Riverside, it's normally going to get pretty scrappy.
I like Pamlico and Perquimans personally as the best first round matchup. But I also like your thinking. The 2 conference opponents playing round 1. We're going to see a lot of that throughout these brackets. So, but
Perquimans versus Pamlico County. Pamlico County has been, you talk about a program who's put together a lot of great seasons in a row. As a girls program, they've been doing that for the last 10 years.
For sure. But for now, we will move on to one of probably, if you ask me, I think a lot of people love the 2A classification when it comes to basketball and how much talent across the board is in this Eastern region. And we'll start with the number 1 seed, St. Paul's, who has been very, very good all season long. They've dominated their conference. They've beaten some really good teams throughout the season, and they are the number 1 overall seed. What are your overall thoughts on St. Paul's, Kai?
Well, St. Paul's, they get number 1 seed. They've been concerned because last year COVID knocked them out. Then Ashanti Lynch went crazy and knocked them out the year before that. It seems like they've just had bad luck when it comes to the playoffs. So this year, they get the number 1 seed. I believe their only loss was to Purnell Sweat. Kylie Chavis, one of the best teams in 4A. St. Paul's went ahead and they got Raleigh Charter. But after that, they'll have to see a very tough North Pitt team who features Zamaria Jones, who, if you haven't seen, is the goods. Zamaria Jones, they play Eastern Wayne in the first round. Eastern Wayne's been a great, scrappy team. They've had a great comeback story this year. As they've normally been one of the better programs in Wayne County, and this year they kind of took that back. I think they still were slightly behind Southern Wayne, but this year they were a lot better. But I don't know if they'll be able to keep up the firepower that is Zamaria Jones. The 2A bracket, though, is just loaded. You look at Whiteville and Trinity Smith. You got a C4 versus Kinston matchup, which could be one of the best in the first round, which you said before. Anytime you have a program like C4 who's new, but in a place where traditionally they've been pretty good at winning basketball games, then you have a Kinston team who's traditionally been really good at winning basketball games. That'll be interesting. Farmville Central versus Camden County. I don't think that will be too crazy, but it is always good when you have those good Eastern matchups. Southwest Onslow versus Princeton. Princeton's been kind of up and down all year. I think how well they perform in that game depends on if Anna Taylor's able to go. She's been dealing with some kind of off the court things that's kind of kept her out of the game, unfortunately. So hopefully, she can come in and have a big game against Southwest Onslow. And I can't remember the young lady's name, but they have a good guard there.
Monty Reed.
Monty Reed, yes.
She's a walking bucket.
Yep. And then after that, I think you got Hertford County down there too. It's interesting. Hertford gets the 2 seed over Farmville.
Yep. And if people don't know, sorry to cut you off, Kai, but if people don't know, the playoff system was done by the RPI ranking system, which goes through your overall record, your opponent's win percentage, and your opponent's win percentage. And it's a big math equation. they add it all up, and whatever your rating is off that formula is depending on how you rank, along with if you win a conference championship, finish second, like automatic bids and all that.
Right. Of course, we've had situations where the conference finish came into play where teams actually get in. We'll talk about that later. But Hertford, they get the 2 seed. I'm sure a lot of the Farmville faithful and the Jag Den will not be happy about that. So we'll see how it plays out in the end.
Of course, as most people know, Farmville's won 3 straight regional titles and, of course, shared the state championship in 2020 when COVID stopped the state championships that year from happening. And they have a very good chance, led by 2 of the very best players around, East Tennessee State commit Journey McDaniel and East Carolina commit Amaya Joyner, who both have had 40-point games recently against their big rival North Pitt, who they beat for the 3rd time this season in the conference championship this past Friday. I like Farmville's chances to get back to states, but going through St. Paul's is a tough place because St. Paul's, they love their basketball in that area. Robson County has very, very good girls basketball, and you mentioned Purnell Sweat. We'll talk about them later as well. They've had a great season too. Other teams that I like a lot of these teams in the 2A East girls. Northeastern has played very well this year. Another team out of the NCC conference with Hertford County, led by Northeastern, led by Jasmine Felton and Anaya Rainey, Desiree Askew at Hertford. They're just a lot of good players. Tazania Locklear and Sydney Robertson at East Carteret, who got the 4 seed. They're going to be a tough out. North Lenore with Ashanti Lynch, Maryland Eastern Shore commit. I mean, there is Division I talent across the board. I didn't even mention Talia and Tamaya Council at St. Paul's, who's part of one of the best starting 5s around defensively. They just get after it.
Who comes out of the 2A East?
Oh, you're going to do this to me now, man? We just started this episode.
Who comes out of the 2A East?
I'm not going to lose friendships today. I'm sorry. I'm a coward.
All right. If you're not going to say it, I'm going to say it. I'm going to go with St. Paul's.
Oh, you're going with the number 1 seed St. Paul's. That's a good pick. That's a very good pick. They're very capable.
I think they have too many things have went wrong in the last 3 or 4 years. I think they want to go ahead and push their at least get to the big dance.
They're very adamant that they can as well.
Now the interesting thing will be if it's Farmville versus St. Paul's, do they play the 2A girls at Fayetteville State or do they play at ECU? That'll be an interesting thing.
I don't know. I don't know. That's very interesting. But here's the thing. St. Paul's got the 1 seed. The problem is in round 2, they might have to see Zamaria Jones round 2.
The thing that I look at with North Pitt.
That's a tough round 2 matchup.
The thing I look at it with North Pitt is they have Zamaria Jones and they have Aquarius Petaway, but honestly, I don't believe in their other pieces as much. St. Paul's, I believe in their entire starting 5. And I know some people at North Pitt would say, I just don't think that they're ready yet. I think that this is another one of those building block years. This is a year where you kind of needed that playoff experience again. They got it last year, went on the road, beat First Flight in the first round, played Farmville again. So I think that this experience will be important for them in the future. You have Zamaria Johnson 2 more years, and
2 more years.
Amaya and Journey will be gone. I think to me that this year is not their year, but we could be looking at either next year or Zamaria's senior year in 2024.
Their future is very bright. I do think they could play spoiler, but like I said though, between Jashante Harris, the Council twins, Anaya Teague, and Shakia Thompson, that 5 is very tough to beat, especially when they're coached by one of the very best, Mike Moses, who as most people know, coached the Carolina Flames.
Game.
Yep. Let's just say there are a lot of Flames all over this girls list that we'll probably be talking about at some point. If I could pivot to the West for just a brief second, if I had I'd name like 3 or 4 teams I'd like to see. Randleman, the number 1 seed. Newton Conover, who shared that state championship with Farmville Central, has always been good.
I think that's who's going back to it. Newton Conover.
Really. I don't know, man, because I like that pick, but there are 2 other teams that I like too. Salisbury with Kyla Bryant and Jamesia Huntley and all them. They are a very tough team to beat. And Shelby, the defending state champions, returned just about everybody from that team. Raja Pass, Holyfield, so the West is going to be very tough. But I mean, Newton Conover's not a bad pick at all. I think 2A overall, this girls bracket is going to be very fun to watch and see who can make a run at the state championship. But in the meantime,
let's move on to 3A.
Yes, we will continue on to the 3A girls. Of course, both the number 1 seeds in each classification. And on the west side is the defending 3A state champion Jesse Carson. I believe they went undefeated last year en route to the state championship, and they returned their leading scorer, Mary Spry, who's very good. And then on the girls' side, the team that went undefeated this season through the conference tournament, the Terry Sanford Bulldogs, who are a very, very talented bunch. So what are your overall thoughts on 3A, Kai?
3A, man, it's spicy in the 3A East, man. It's spicy. You look at it, you got Terry Sanford. You got First Flight, who I like. You got 71st with Kyla Good. You got E. Smith, who's really elite. Who has a lot of great talent. You got the 2 Alamance schools. I mean, you can never count out Alamance County when it comes to girls basketball. You got Rocky Mount. Persons normally had a really good girls basketball. Southern Wayne this year is undefeated, and they play such a physical style of basketball. You got, Southern Durham. You got Northern Nash. You got Pike. You got Northwood. You got West Carteret. To me, it's just so many teams who could come out of the 3A East that it's going to be interesting. To me, it's going to come down to matchups. The potential matchups that I look at, you got Terry Sanford versus E. Smith in round 4 that could potentially happen. You got 71st and Orange will be very interested in the first round just because normally Orange, they play some very Charlotte-style basketball, a lot more shooting and threes and space, and then you have 71st, who with Kyla Good is 20-20, the 2020 vision for her. Then you look at the Eastern Alamance versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville's normally been very good at girls basketball. Then you have the potential Southern Wayne versus Southern Durham matchup that you've talked about. West Carteret versus Northwood, potential for Southern Wayne versus Northwood. There's a lot to like here. Then you have South Central too. South Central could possibly get in there and mix it up with Terry Sanford as well. A lot of these teams too, just looking at the people who they have, size-wise, is very much. There's not really a lot of teams who have an advantage. It's going to be all about who can play the best defense and whose guards are controlling the game the best, in my opinion.
Which is why I like Terry Sanford a lot. They defend their tails off, and they just got a bunch of girls who just get after it on both ends, and they feel intimidating when you play them. Like it's just they're from Maya John.
One thing I don't like it for Terry Sanford, they have the worst side of the bracket. To me, they have a lot of teams.
Yeah, they did get all. Yeah, I agree with that. They did get the run the gauntlet type bracket. You have to play potentially a South Central or Rocky Mount or an E. Smith again, or Cape Fear. Well, Cape Fear in round 3 if they beat Westover. I mean, that's very, dude. There's so many good players across this board too. Like you
I mean,
mentioned,
there's
Kylie Good.
Jacksonville and Eastern Alamance as well there. The thing that people don't realize is that just because you're 11 or a 12 or a 13 seed doesn't mean that you're not necessarily good. It just means that the person, there was a team that was better than you in conference. And to me, this side of the bracket just does no favors for Terry Sanford. You know, I think they get an easy first round matchup with East Wake, but then after that, you got 71st next, then possibly either Cape Fear or First Flight next, then a South Central or E. Smith or Rocky Mountain next. All that before you get the regionals. Well, I think on the other side of the bracket,
Waiting.
yeah, but I don't think on the other side of the bracket, you know, you get not easier matchups, but I think Southern Wayne and Northwood both have an easier road necessarily. I don't think they have to expend as much energy until round 3.
Here's the thing though. I feel Terry Sanford in big games this year. Terry Sanford has risen to the occasion, and then some. Outside of one stretch against E. Smith where they were up big and E. Smith got it all the way down to 2, they've been pretty good in big games this year. I do like their chances with the talent they have. But I mentioned Maya Giles Jones, Tamia Morris, and Brianna Rowe. I think they are. Harmony Martin as well, who was the MVP at our WJG Sports Classic in the summer, came off the bleachers, won MVP
with the sweatpants on.
Of course, some more classic alums: Precious Harris and Romani Robinson at Westover. They've had Coach Bennett and them, considering all the things that have gone on. They've had a great season. Tough first round matchup with Cape Fear and Jada Angel, who's one of the very best players in the state in 2024. South Central girls, major props to the South Central girls. They lost to Conley at the Christmas tournament, came back the next 2 times and blew them out both times to win the conference championship. Very talented bunch. You know, Amari Palmer, Kayla Friend, Kayla Smith, Alondra Jordan, who's committed to Shaw University, Brayden Kell, 3-point shooter, Rocky Mountain, one of the top scoring teams around, with Caroline Teal, who's probably the most underrated girls player in the state, at least on the east side, Shalia Williams, Nyla Powell, all of them.
Rocky Mountain's another one of those programs who's put together a lot of years in a row.
Absolutely. And Southern Wayne is a great story. The fact that they went undefeated through the regular season, won the conference very easily, and Jemiah Bass and Navia Hines Bass and all that entire crew deserve a lot of credit. And like you said at the top of us talking about 3A, they're a very physical team. They defend well. And
the interesting thing is, this is the first time they've really been able to do this in the history of the school. I mean, it's hard. I don't even think they can go back and find a girls team who won 20 games necessarily. Especially even when you look at it like that, they haven't found a team who's been undefeated in the regular season. So this is a big time moment for that school and for that program.
Another team to watch, Northwood. Northwood is very, very, very good. So the 3A East is going to be tough. That's going to be tough for me on the west side. Like I mentioned off top, Jesse Carson's very good, and I also like Freedom. Freedom has always been good. And then we get to
was Freedom 4A last year?
They're still
3A.
They're the number 3 seed in 3A West. They are very, very talented group, and I think they got a shot to go far for me. And now we get to the gauntlet of all gauntlets. The 4A period is just littered with good teams and good talent. I'm sure I don't have to mention that to you. You already know what the deal is. Mm-hmm. But on the east side, we'll talk about the top seeds first. In the west side, is Watauga, who's led by a freshman bucket getter at point guard in Kate Sears, who's really good. And then on the east side, led by McDonald's All-American and Stanford commit India Navarre is Apex Friendship, a very talented group of over there in Apex. So your thoughts on the 4A, Kai?
Ooh, 4A is tough. I think this year there's no question that it's been the best classification for basketball in the NCHSAA. I think there's without a doubt, when you look at the level of depth that these teams have, you look at teams like Millbrook being the 2 seed, you got Laney, you got Garner with God, I can't think of her name right now. Panther
Journey
Creek.
Kiyaku.
You say who?
Journey Kiyaku, the NC
Yeah,
Central
Journey. I knew it was Journey, but I didn't want to say Journey McDaniels. You got Cardinal Gibbons, who's been really good all year long. You got Hillside, who's made a lot of noise this year. Got Hoggard. Hoggard has, a fantastic team. You look at Purnell Sweat, Green Level, Richmond. You got the Southern Alamance, Apex Friendship, Willow Springs. It's deep. I mean, honestly, I look at these first round matchups and there's 4 or 5, and I'm like, wow, that should be a really good game. You look at Panther Creek and Heritage. That's big smoke in the first round.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's just the 4A East is a straight gauntlet. Whoever gets out of the East will have earned it and then some, because
Southeast Valley and Pine Forest.
Yeah, man, that is, yeah, that's all I could say is these matchups are insane.
Corinth holders, kudos to them getting to the playoffs this year. They have a very young team, and I think in the next 2 or 3 years, we could see them potentially be one of those teams that we talk about as being a scary out. Clayton this year, they have Topsail. I think that's a pretty good matchup for them. But Topsail will be nobody to look over, especially when you consider that Clayton will not have Dariana Howard, which of course Flames gang, of course, again, was a WJG Sports Classic alum as well as a Division I prospect. She has been huge for the team this year, had some of her biggest breakout games of her career this year. But I think that is still a winnable matchup even without Dariana here in the first round.
I would have to agree with that. Other players to watch, I mentioned India Navarre off top, who's going to the McDonald's All-American game and just committed to Stanford, 5-star prospect. Another Flames gang member. I mean, and then of course you have obviously Willow Spring is a great story. First year of exist. Well, yeah, first year of it, or second year technically, but
yeah.
They did make the playoffs out of the Greater News as the last team in. Holly Springs, led by Sammy Ackles and Stacy Williams, is a very good team. Richmond, led by Jemiah Lindsay, freshman sensation. There are a lot of good freshman guards in this 4A East. Conley had a very good season, all things considered, with a few injuries here and there. But their loss to South Central cost them a home playoff game. That's why they're number 9 now. And playing Southview, who's a very tough team to beat. Purnell Sweat and Jordan, Sydney Barker from Jordan is very talented young guard, junior guard. And you mentioned Kylie Chavis. It's not just Kylie. They got Natalie Evington, and she just lights it up from 3. And Nyla Mitchell is also the same way. So they have a 3-headed monster that's going to be tough to beat. Hoggard has beaten a lot of really good teams this year, including South Central and Conley. They won the.
I saw some of the film from when they were there at that Christmas tournament. And
yeah, they are goods. Hillside is also the goods. I saw them against Millbrook. Was a 1-point game at Millbrook bit of a controversial finish to that game, but that was a high level matchup. Let's see, Cardinal Gibbons girls, very underrated team. Issa Roman and Ryan Lawrence and Ava Palmgren and Olivia Young. That four right there is very tough to beat. Like you mentioned off top. Oh yeah, Lisa Rhodes good too. Panther Creek at Heritage is an insane first round matchup between you got Chloe Williams from Elon and Panther Creek led by D1 prospect Madison Jordan, Taylor Barner, Olivia Tucker. Like that matchup across the board is very good. South Garner girls, Journey Kyaku, Nia Wilkins, Olivia Jacobs.
Trying to get back to the championship.
Yeah, Darden, yeah. Athens Drive is a very good team. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, but they've hung in there and had a really good season. They'll be a team to watch over the next couple of seasons. Millbrook is really good. I can't tell you who's going to win for the 4A East. Honestly, I couldn't tell you who's winning 4A, period. Because the West teams are the same way. Like, Northern Guilford's good. You got East Forsyth with Lanai Sims. You got Chambers, who's won the last 2 state titles. Charlotte Catholic with Blanca Thomas, one of the top players in the country. Myers Park, Independence, North Mac, Watauga. I mean, it's Reagan, Cuthbertson, Lake Norman. I mean, all these teams are really good. Like, I could say and South Mac too. Like, I can name just about every team in this classification and be like, yeah, they could go really far in the state playoffs from where they're at. So
all about matchups and who's playing the best at the right time in this case.
And I'm definitely excited for this girls. The entire girls classification is going to be very fun to watch for sure.
I think we got to shout out to the Wayne Country Day girls. They got to the Final Four. That's right. Big time. They're going to be playing at home against O'Neill. And you look at Wayne Christian girls making it to the Final Four for the first time in school history, at least in the NCISAA. And they will be going to the Burlington School, who I believe are they the defending champs?
Not the girls' side, no.
Not on the girls' side. That's right. Then you look at Greenfield girls. They're in the Final Fours again. But I think it'll be very tough with Grace Christian over there.
Well, we're going to Victory, which will still be very difficult.
Right.
Because
Christian as well. To me, those are the two best 1A NCISA teams, Grace Christian and Victory Christian. So that'll be epic.
That first matchup was a 1-point game. So if they can get to the state championship games in Mount Olive, that would be one heck of a rematch between, Zaria Gould, Sarah Strong, Denaje Brooks, Maya Campbell, Tony Hughes. I mean, that team is just.
I say then too, the potential for a Wayne Country Day versus Wayne Christian state championship game.
I don't want to. I would love for that matchup to happen, but the teams they're playing in the Final Four are extremely different. Like, O'Neill has been the thorn in Wayday's side for the last several years. They've been the team every time Wayday gets to the Final Four, they got to see them. They're like, them again. But this year they this year they're at home.
Just put up 36.
O'Neill's a good team though. O'Neill's a very good team.
So we'll see. They both have very similar styles. We'll see if maybe Wayne Country Day can get over that hump.
And on the boys' side, Wayne Christian got eliminated in the second round of the state playoffs, and the Wayday boys played a great game against Northside Christian Academy yesterday and managed to beat them again in the state playoffs to go to the Final Four.
For straight year.
Well, they will face the defending champion Burlington School boys team that is very talented. And Wayne Country Day will be heading back to Burlington on Tuesday for a chance to go to the state championship. So that, and of course, and also the Greenfield boys also advanced to the Final Four. They'll play at home on Tuesday. Shout
out Jetty Young too. Greensboro Day from the Borough played at Wayne Christian.
Yep, they will also be
in 4A.
the 12th consecutive year and 30th time in 34 years for GDS. But now we transition. Oh, yeah, Jaden's that guy. Don't get me wrong. That GDS team is very good. They have a rematch with Cannon again. They play Cannon again. But now we transition to the men's basketball NCHSAA brackets. And I must say, I like all the classifications, but for me, 1A and 2A, it doesn't get any spicier. So, especially in the 1A and 2A East. We'll start with 1A. What are some teams that you're looking forward to seeing in this state playoff run, Kai?
All right, let's see. When I look at it, Rosewood could make an upset here on 26 from 26 and the 7th seed. Pender, of course, has played very good basketball for a while, but I think for Rosewood, that was a good draw to get that seed. Bertie, they haven't been very good this year as far as record-wise, but, whenever you got a Bazemore on your team, you never know what can happen. Wilson Prep, of course, the defending champs, trying to go for a second straight. Look at Tarboro versus Northampton, 2-5-2 matchup, always going to be spicy, always going to be chippy. You got Kip Pride versus River Mill Academy. Kip Pride is going to be interesting to see how they put together this playoff run. Pamlico and Southside, another 2-5-2 matchup there. You look at Beargrass Charter. That could be an upset there with Southeast Halifax. You never know. News Charter versus Northside Pinetown. Two teams kind of built the same. Another one that could be a potential upset as well. Jones Senior makes an actual appearance into the playoffs, so that's interesting. We got Chatham Charter there, who's at the 1 seed. So we'll see how that goes for them. I'm not sure. Haven't seen much of Chatham Charter, but Chatham County has been really good at basketball these last few years, last 10 15 years. So
I like your analysis. Honestly, the feel-good story of last week was Rosewood seemed like after losing a controversial game to Hopton to end their regular season, seemed like they were dead to rights, and then they rose up and won 3 straight games to win the conference tournament in the Carolina 1A, including beating News Charter, even though News Charter's been the number 1 seed and had a great season this year.
And they won the conference tournament bid, which knocked out Hopton in the end.
That's right. Hopton was a number 2 automatic bid going into the week, and Rosewood stole their bid and knocked them out of the state playoffs all in one go. Led by Otis Coley, Micah Cox, and Jaden Solomon, who's a player that will be one to watch in Wayne County over the next few years. Very, very talented player.
Also, too, I forgot to point out, we got North Edgecombe versus Riverside. That could be a very interesting matchup. Edgecombe's been one of the very good 1A teams this year. But anytime you got Coach Bobby coming into your house, that's not good for you. Coach Bobby, I'm not sure there's a lot of coaches who watch more film and obsess over basketball more than him. And you got Washington County and Henderson Collegiate there that could also make some deep runs. I can't forget the P. I know Trey Corden will come and scout me if I forget the P.
Big hoop for him, yes indeed. Of course, I like. There's a lot of talent on this region. By all accounts, Chatham Charter is really good. As you can see, I'm wearing a Bucket Reel shirt, thanks to our good friend Anthony Bruton.
That 40, that was a great event yesterday. I couldn't attend it for the first time, but hey, we'll definitely back there next year.
But by his account, Chatham Charter's a very good team, so I would trust his word on that. I love the Pamlico County and Southside matchup, the old Coastal Plains rivals going at it. Jones Senior hosting, led by Jymon Jones and all them. They're getting to host Northwest Halifax with Shamarja Davis. They played spoiler in the Tar Roanoke 1A by beating North Edgecombe on Wednesday, which gave Wilson Prep the number 1 seed out of the conference. And as you can see, they're number 2 overall. Dayton Sutton, Kristen Battle, Adrian Land, They're a very good group. They have a very good shot at getting back and potentially repeating as state champions again. Tarboro led by Michael Jenkins, North Edgecombe led by Marion McCray and EJ Lyons, and Janez Davis and all them. I think that it's going to be very interesting, and you know as well as I know that this 1A classification is spicy all the way around. So I feel like there's some great atmospheres in 1A East basketball, and it should be a fun run. For me though, on the west side, just so I can name a few teams that have been really good this year.
Hayesville's my pick.
I like that pick. They're number 1 seed. They've been undefeated so far this season. They've been pretty good most of the year. I also like Johans Connor and Winston-Salem Prep. You already know their history of winning state championships the last 10, 15 years. URI Charter with Ashton Troutman, another team that could make a very good run. Bishop McGuinness, led by Dawson McElhaney, they won the state championship in 2019. Those are some teams I think could make a good run at it. But I like the Hayesville pick. Hayesville's really good. They're very good team.
On URI Charter or Christ the King, either though.
Yes. So 1A overall is looking really good again, and I think Henderson Collegiate, as crazy as this sounds, might sneak up on everybody. That's what I'm thinking. They might.
If I was a betting man, I would bet that the 1A East would either be Wilson Prep, Kip Pride, or North Edgecombe, whichever one of those three from that conference.
Well, a potential North Edgecombe Wilson Prep rematch for the 4th time would be at Wilson Prep, and it would be round 4. So there's that. Kip would play Henderson Collegiate round 3, if potentially. But don't put it past Southside and Pamlico not winning. They're both teams that on one night could play really well and play spoilers. So it should be. I honestly am really excited about this 1A bracket for sure. But we move on for now to everybody's favorite, the 2A and the 2A East. Everybody loves the 2A East.
Oh boy.
And for good reason. Obviously, everyone knows what the big story is. Can Farmville Central go from their 4th consecutive state championship? And they will do so as the number 1 seed after they were like RPI wise, they were like 2, 3, 4 most of the season. And then when it mattered, when they started to play those good teams, they were winning and their RPI was good enough to where they have home court again.
I think they were 2 and 3 though because their win percentage was low because of the 3 losses at the John Wall. But you had to know that they weren't going to lose any games in the regular season. I think might have been a little bit of a panic when Josh Short went down in the 2nd game of the John Wall, but they ran the ship. They beat Kinston. They beat Washington on the very first game without him. Beat Green Central 3 times, which Green Central's been really good this year. 1 loss to Millbrook without Josh Short. But other than that, it's been Farmville.
Their 3 losses are to Hansel Emmanuel and Life Christian. Of course, if you don't know who Hansel Emmanuel is, he's the one-armed basketball player that has been an internet sensation. Of course, Archbishop Spalding, who's nationally ranked, led by Cam Whitmore, the Villanova commit, and a Millburg team which they had the lead going to the 4th quarter, and Millburg outscored them by 20 in the 4th quarter. So that was
they should have won that game. They should have won that game. Just being there, they played better the entire game, and just I think Josh Short's defensive presence against C.J. Jordan was just so heavily missed there in that 4th quarter.
Yeah, CJ was getting to the rim at will the last several minutes, and he's been playing great all year. We'll get to Millbrook in a second.
Other than that, Laura is still Croft. It's still Farmville. It's still the same thing. At the end of the day, everybody in the 2A East knows that that's the team you have to beat to get through.
I 100% agree. Farmville is the favorite until they lose. That's how I feel about it. But there are some talented teams in this 2A East. There's St. Paul's boys team, similar to the girls team, had their season cut short due to COVID, and they were a very talented bunch with Javion Tatum, MJ Galbraith. I don't know if I pronounced his last name correctly, but MJ's a very good player. You also have on their side of the bracket Eastern Wayne, big WJG. They got to the conference championship game, played Goldsboro tough the third time around, but ultimately fell to Goldsboro. We'll get to them in a second. They have a pretty favorable. I think their draw is very favorable. The first two rounds. Don't get me wrong. I like both JF Webb and East Carteret, but Eastern Wayne can actually give them both a good game, and Research Triangle a good game. So
I mean, Eastern Wayne just been one of those teams. They have plenty of talent, but it hasn't been able to come together all year. They did finally put it together against Princeton.
A high team in the 2A East. On one hand, they beat Kinston one night and lost to Spring Creek by 15 the next game. It's been that type of season.
They are very mysterious, but very dangerous. I personally wouldn't want them to have them come into my gym. Albert Brown, he's in good basketball shape, playing really well. He's rolling. Julian Silvestri, he's rolling right now. Zay Oates has been probably their most consistent player all year long. They have so many athletes that it's just tough to match up with them. I'm looking down at this bracket, man. There's a lot of interesting matchups. Look, you got Aiden Griffin probably will go into High Trask and win.
I think so.
Which would set up a Aiden Griffin versus Farmville Central matchup for the fourth time? Yeah. East Carteret probably beats JF Webb, and then Eastern Wayne has a chance to shock Research Triangle, and you could get a Eastern Wayne at East Carteret. You got Hereford here versus James Keenan. James Keenan, another one of those teams who just hasn't played up to their potential, have a lot of talent. Shout out to my guy, Coach Williams down there, and Coach Jones.
Sports Classic family.
Right. Hereford County, though, is one of the most talented teams in the state. I think they'll solidly get through this. You look at Northeastern and North Lenore, that's a really interesting matchup. North Lenore has been up and down this year, but Northeastern should be able to take that one. Then you'll get a Northeastern versus Hertford County, fifth time? Jesus Christ.
Green, Hertford's 1-1.
Wallace against Red Springs, that's an interesting matchup. I like Wallace, but then St. Paul's is Roanoke Rapids. Give me St. Paul's, and you have St. Paul's would be against Wallace. That's a very interesting matchup.
If Red Springs and St. Paul's play, that would also be the fifth time they played this year.
Golly, we gotta stop doing conference play the way that we do it, man. We gotta change conference play, dog. I don't like it. I hate when we have teams playing five.
No conference matchups round one. At least round one. Come on now.
Yeah. Anywho, I do like that Wallace Rose Hill versus St. Paul's matchup. Wallace Rose Hill led by Kendall Cave and Keon Pickett, and they are very good. Could be a potential upset there. Cummings at East Duplin at Cummings, that could be. I'm putting Cummings on upset alert right there. You have Green Central Manio. Really? I'm putting Cummings on upset alert right there against Green.
That round two.
Then they have Then they would have Goldsboro. I don't really believe in Cummings this year. They are a very young team, but we'll see. Goldsboro.
They're a talented group, though.
They are. But I think right now just isn't the time. This 2A East is very deep this year. You look at it. Goldsboro got a bunch of gifts on Friday night. So first on Friday night they played Eastern Wayne. Taj Joyner goes down with a hamstring injury. Able to come back in the third quarter is a spark that pushes them towards the win. Then boom, Green Central loses. Boom, Whiteville loses. Boom, Wallace Rose Hill loses. That puts them at the 6th seed, which to me is probably the most favorable other than the 1 or the 2 seed this year, because you have Seaforth.
They got a very favorable draw. I definitely agree. I
You
don't
have
mean to cut you off.
Seaforth, who has Jaron Stevenson, but
Top 25 player in the country.
right, one of the top players in the country. But other than him, they do not have much. Goldsboro, if they can get past that, then you would have Lewisburg or Princeton. Princeton, they've beaten twice. Corey Faison averaged 40 points a game against Princeton in the 2 times they played.
Not average 40 against is the better question.
Yeah, and then if it's not Princeton, it'd be Lewisburg, Jordan Durham and company. Very favorable matchup again. It'll be at home. Then you would either play Cummings. You would have to travel to Burlington, which I think of the teams outside of Farmville and Kinston, this is probably the team that you wanted, because Hertford is tougher to meet, is tougher in my opinion. Yeah, St. Paul's could be a tougher matchup. Northeastern, those could all be tougher matchups in my opinion. But it could also be you host Green Central, or you host East Duplin or Manio. So to me, that's the best case scenario. And then you would get to play probably Kinston in the 4th round. And you go to Kinston, which has not been a place that's been very friendly for any Cougar team in the past. But in this particular case,
yeah.
in a 4th round matchup, both teams travel good. Corey Faison, if they get to this, he's likely rolling. That's a great matchup with him and Jeremy Dixon. They played against each other at the Bowling for Cancer, and both of them played very well. But Kinston is still Kinston. I mean, that's still a tough game, but you got to look at it in the 4th round that you'd much rather having played the teams that you've played up until then to get to Kinston. And then you will, if you would be able to get past Kinston, then you would have a regional trip most likely to see the Jaguars, probably in Minges, because they always give Minges to Farmville. So to me, they have the most favorable of the draws of anybody. Outside of that, Kinston, I think, gets past West Bladen, gets past Washington. South Granville and Camden County, that's an interesting matchup, but I don't think either one of them be upsetting any teams. Whiteville, Granville Central, once again, Whiteville is very good. Granville Central is normally pretty good. But I think that you're looking at Kinston. I think at the worst, Kinston's, I'd say their floor is the 4th round from this side of the bracket.
But pivoting to back to East Carteret, I would say it's been an emotional week there for their community, losing 4 young men in a plane crash off the coast this week, and it was an emotional night there when I went on Friday night. The East Carteret boys in Pamlico County played a great game, and East Carteret tied for the conference title that night. It was probably, I mean no offense to anyone else's gyms and the atmospheres I've been in this year, but that was probably the best atmosphere I've been in all season. And it was very fun. Everybody was wearing camo, and I felt like I should wear camo too. So I did wear a camo jacket to the game. But bottom line is, we definitely praying for the Crystal Coast community in Down East and East Carteret's both their programs, the girls program. I know they had a tough loss on Friday, but the girls and boys programs at East Carteret are on the rise, and they've always been good. But
they've always had
these next few years they're going to be treated to some good basketball. Led by 3 sophomores, Shamel Baker, Charles Mathica, and Cole Jernigan, who are all very good.
I would be upset if he heard that you were saying that it was not good basketball at East Carteret.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say it like that, but I was going to say, like, the next few years going ahead, like it's only going to get better. It's pretty much what I'm saying.
Right. I mean, they've always played good ball at the beach. And
Oh yeah. Oh, and we're gonna get to the other school in Carteret County that's very good
and
and had a chance.
I think people they were probably upset they had to move up to 2A, but
There was
I think
2A
that's
in
worked
the
out.
state. Jacob Smith consistently lets us know that they're the smallest team in 2A. 560 something students. They're the
Well, I
smallest
mean,
school.
look at it. Princeton's got 581. Kinston's got, I think, 5 something as well. So I mean, hey,
They're one of the smallest. That's yes.
yeah. A
But
lot of teams were upset they had to move up or move down. So we'll see how it works out for them.
a potential East Carteret and Farmville third round matchup would be fun to watch. I mean, Shamel Baker getting his chance to play a big time team, and Charles Mathica too. Those two guards they're very tough to handle. Outside of that, they might struggle. But to get scoring from elsewhere. Even though the East Carteret's really athletic, but they outside of those two that I said, they've struggled to find scoring from a third option.
To me, I look at it as there's only 4 teams in the East that I could see in the 2A East giving Farmville a problem. It's Goldsboro, Kinston, Seaforth, Northeastern. Those are the only teams I could see. You might could throw in Hertford County there. But I think the only way that you can really truly beat them is you need to have either a lot of size or you need to have a lineup like a Kinston where you have all 5 that can really defend really well. And I think Kinston has it. It's just one of those things where Farmville's just had their number for so many years. And I think it's so hard to beat a program like Farmville they've kind of bred themselves on being the hunters. Somehow every year they find a way to rile themselves up to believe that they are not the hunted, but the hunters. And when you get guys,
I agree. I honestly think last year's random draw predetermined brackets woke them up. I have a theory that I don't think they would have been as motivated if they were actually a 1 seed last year because, them getting number 9 woke them up so much to where they just went crazy.
I think they did a great job.
Even though it was not. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's a little annoying because it's like we know you're not actually a 9 seed. We know that for a fact.
Yes.
But
they
did
needed something to be motivated by, Kai.
I did appreciate the fact they got motivated by it. And I think just when you have that type of program where they believe that we should be the champions, that we're the hunted, that nobody should be able to beat us, that we're going to go out there and get you before you get us, and it's interesting to watch.
I know we talked about 2A for a little bit, but both of us love 2A basketball. The biggest thing I saw for our area teams, at the very last second, North Pitt was projected in the playoffs, and then they realized Southwest Edgecombe, who also didn't make the playoffs before I say what I say, Southwest Edgecombe finished ahead of North Pitt in the conference standings, which meant they get first priority if they get seeded in the playoffs ahead of North Pitt, causing North Pitt to miss the playoffs on the last possible second. That was a
big rule that people forgot about, but it's been around for a few years now. You can't jump people who finished ahead of you in your conference. And
I happened on the side too. Wes Craven's who was it? Aiden Griffin and Southwest Edgecombe's RPI was ahead of Wes Craven, but because Wes Craven finished ahead of him in conference, they missed the playoffs.
It happens.
So, hashtag the RPI is wild. It is very. That's why I think it's very interesting.
I like the RPI because it's a mathematical equation, but I do like there's still a human element. If you win your conference championship, you're seeded first. If
Yep.
You don't finish ahead of the person in your conference, then you can't jump the person who finished ahead of you. I think, to me, I don't like the way conference is done nowadays, but because I think that it kind of prevents you from getting some really good matchups in because of the limitations on how many non-conference games you can get. But I think the one thing that it is important that if you're going to have it, it needs to matter. Your conference needs to matter. And I think that this kind of keeps conference relevant in the fact of you're not going to jump a team who finished ahead of you. And if you're a conference champion, you get priority seating. To me, that's the way it should be done. Heck, I think the NCAA should do it for the March Madness. Make the conferences matter. Don't give just because a team is 64th in RPI and they get an automatic bid. Don't give them the 16 seed. Give them a 3 seed, 4 seed.
Interesting indeed. But like we mentioned, I really think it's a good take, for sure. I honestly though, I like there are a lot of talented players across this 2A East side. A lot of well coached teams: Washington, Camden County. Manio's had a very good season out in the Outer Banks. Tough matchup with Green Central round 1, but they've got a couple guys that could really play. Northeastern has been sort of Jekyll and Hyde too, like against good teams they hadn't played as well, and then when it mattered they started to play really well, and they won the NCC championship against First Flight on Friday. They're a very talented group. But going to the West just briefly, because the West has actually got some really good teams too that I've seen. Some we know like what players they have. We start with RS Central at the number 1 seed, led by one of the best freshmen in the state, Zamika Wilkins, a very, very talented 6'6" forward, and he's got a chance to send RS Central on a big playoff run. Of course, the defending West champion Hendersonville is very good still. Keenan Wilkins and Dwight Kennedy. Walkertown with Bryce Baker and Jeremiah Scales. Lincoln Charter got to the 1A West championship, to the 1A championship last year, is now 2A and got the 2 seed this year. J.M. Robinson with David Hobbs. Shelby with a really good group. So, and Salisbury too with Jucaris. And Providence Grove with Zane Cottle. That 2A West is going to be tough to win as well. We might could see Hendersonville and RS Central again, though, potentially. I think they literally played one possession games all 3 times. But I think we talked a lot about 2A. 3A is all.
By the way.
You taking Lincoln Charter? Okay, I like it. Let's talk about 3A. We have a lot of WJG sports coverage area teams in this classification. Triple S, CB Aycock, both made the playoffs out of the 3A Quad County. Triple S playing Hunt, the Quad County champs in round 1. And then you got South Central at number 1 in the 3A East. Their draw is very tough though. Once you get to round 2 and 3, their draw is tough. But what are your overall thoughts, Kai?
All right, let me look again at some of these matchups. To me, the 3A is it's the one where it's the most tightly contested. I don't think there's really a favorite here. I mean, South Central, they've had their struggles. West Carteret, they've had their struggles. You got a team like Northwood, who lost Jaron Stevenson, still find themselves one of the top teams in the state. First Flight, they're back with the Dobie brothers now. Hunt has been really good all year long. Have a lot of good pieces to them. You have J.H. Rose had a really good year. Terry Sanford, who's expected to kind of be more title contender now. They're here at the 9 seed, so we'll see how that runs for them. Rocky Mount could make some noise. There's a lot of teams that could make some noise. You look at Southern Nash, you got Jordan Vick there. You got let's see, Havelock, they haven't won a lot of games, but could be a tough game for Northwood. You look at East Wake, there's Aycock, there's Cape Fear. Swansboro was undefeated for a large part of the year. Currituck County is no pushover, no slouch. You got Northern Nash there, who's had some big upsets this year. It's just, to me, there's a lot of parity there. To me, there's the most parity there in that it's really equal opportunity. It just depends on who plays who on what night. In my opinion, though, the side of the bracket, if I'm looking at it, the side of the bracket I want to be on is where South Central is. And, having Coach Cherry, very declarated, very coach who's won a lot of games, been in a lot of big-time playoff matchups. I think that is the team who has the best road to get to the playoffs. I would be interested in seeing a South Central Hunt matchup. I know that'd be huge for 252. There's also a possibility for that Rocky Mount South Central matchup. But to me, I just look at it and I'm just like, for me, it sets up that it's going to be, to me, I think Northwood goes back to the state championship game.
That would be some story. You lose a great player like that, and you still manage to get there. It is very honestly, this is another classification where I can make a case for a lot of teams. I mean, South Central, I can make a case for West Carteret, Northwood, 71st, a team that's very talented. Terry Sanford will be a tough out. They're a good team. I mean, I know J.H. Rose had a rough last week of the season. They lost their last game, which cost them a tie for the conference title. But they're still a very talented team. First Flight also lost their conference tournament championship. But on a given night, they can get hot from distance. And it's not just the Dobie brothers. It's the entire team, really. But those two especially.
And Cooper Hawks made such a big difference for that team as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Cooper Hawk has been a huge post presence for them. I don't think Coach Chad Williams has had a post player of a collegiate level on his team before off the top of my head. So that's a big difference for First Flight this year, and they'll still be a very tough out. And then for me on the west side, Hickory, of course, got the 1 seed. The team I like, there are other teams I like. I like Freedom. I like Kings Mountain with Zeke Kennedy, who's just been scoring like 40 points every single game, it seems like.
To me, I think Barabbas is the team that comes out of the West.
Yes. They are. Yes, they're 26-0, I think. And
I believe so, yeah.
They are led by two of my favorite players to watch in North Carolina, Carson and Chase Daniel, who are very talented. Of course, they also have Jaden Thompson, a very talented guard, and he's very, very talented. Freedom with a freshman that has been burst on the scene, Amari Conley. They are going to be tough out as well. I like Stuart Kramer as well with Will Kelly. This 3A is, I think the 3A boys is the most wide open of the classifications. Like, I think anyone could win from the 3A probably.
Right. A lot of parity.
But then last but not least, we get to the 4A classification for the boys. The feel-good story for me is Conley. I think Conley, just an initial thought, Conley winning on senior night against South helped their conference seeding immensely, or helped their state playoff seeding immensely, them getting number 4. It was a huge
thing I'd say is that this year for Raleigh basketball in the 4A East has not been a glorious year for them. To me, I look at the 4A East, And this is kind of the year where I don't really think that it's going to be a team from that area. You look at Conley, you look at Cleveland, you look at New Hanover, Richmond. I think it'd be one of those four, in my personal opinion. To me, that's where
it's hard to go against.
I look at Hoggard as well, be a scary team to put out. Pinecrest, who you've raved about as being very sound defensively. Lumberton, of course, you could never count them out just with the history they've had over the last few years. Overhills came out in a big start, so I mean they could be a team that could be one of those scary teams. But to me, I think that I want a Conley Cleveland matchup again, rematch with this time Cleveland would have Trey Fields and Jace Barrett this time around. So I think it will go a little bit different. I would love to see a Cleveland versus Richmond matchup just because, Cleveland has a lot of size. It'd be interesting to see a Trey Fields versus Paul McNeil matchup. Just because I don't think there's no one who can guard Paul. There's not a single person who can guard Paul. I think Trey Fields would make it interesting with his height and length, as well as the height and length that they have at the rim behind him, waiting for him. New Hanover to me has the easiest ride to the playoffs. It has the easiest ride to the state championship from the 4A East. I like New Hanover a lot. I think they're one of the 5 best teams in 4A, regardless of East or West. They have so much size and versatility. To me, I think that they should be the team that comes out, barring anything crazy happening. And then, like I said, the 4A West, I think, the 4A West will have, I think Weddington will repeat this year. There's been no team who's played a tougher schedule while winning the amount of games that they've won this year. So I think Weddington will ultimately win it. I think it'll be Weddington versus New Hanover, but I do think there's an outside chance in the 4A East that you could see a Cleveland or a Conley or Richmond come out of there as well.
With it, I honestly say though, Weddington still has a tough road to get there. They're gonna have to see Cox Mill potentially, who's very good. Chambers, who you already know, they get a lot of attention. They're very
That's their
into the 36 Chambers.
Yeah.
They're playing Lake Norman round one. Will be pretty good team. Grimsley boys are very good. They have a talented freshman, Zach Wiggins, who's been playing excellent. RG Kell, the 4A West defending champs, who are also they're back again. They're number 3. East Forsyth, Gray, that's 4A.
Weddington also, there's an interesting second round matchup. They could potentially play Mooresville, who has Casey Shaw, who's been one of the best players in the state this year. So
yes, Mooresville is no easy out. East Forsyth with Will Gray. I'm looking at the other side of the draw for the West. North Meg with Slim, Isaiah Evans,
Myers Park,
Elijah Strong, and Sir Muhammad. They're a very talented group as well. RJ Reynolds is good, Mount Tabor. AC Reynolds with Raquise Passmore is another team that will be one to watch this season. Raquise is just a monster, man. Dude,
wouldn't it be crazy if we got a Richmond versus Reynolds and we get a Raquise versus Paul matchup?
Ooh,
that'd be some big smoke right there.
Oh yeah, Millbrook. I want to bring up Millbrook too. They got off to a rough start. They had a stretch of games where they lost 8 consecutive games. And then since then, they have not lost.
Cleveland won to Cleveland.
Yep, that's right. Cleveland went to Millbrook and beat them.
Pretty much their signature win of the season for Cleveland.
Maybe one of their best ever. and probably one of the best in school history. Millbrook has come back strong though. They got back to the number 6 seed, and they've been on a really decent roll. And when it looked like Wakefield was going to pull the upset, they managed to find a way through to win the conference tournament. So I think they've started to get hot at the right time. Another team, Jordan, a lot of size, a lot of talent at guard. Clash Peters this man gets like 15 and 15 at least every single game, it seems like. Cleveland is talented. Don't get me wrong. They've had one of probably their best seasons in school history this year. I don't like the first round matchup with Garner because Greater News team and Garner played them really good the last time. They took them to overtime. So that might be a err on the side of caution game. But talent-wise, Cleveland should make a good run at this. I also like New Hanover, too. They got a lot of classic alums as well. McKellen, Lanier Pocknet, especially. They have a chance to go very far. They will see some teams that have size. That might be some type of roadblock, but they are versatile. They have Jared Vaughn.
I mean, the thing about it,
Allen is bad to guard. Jeremy Aldrich. I mean, it's the team is deep. They're deep and they're well coached. They've always been well coached. They have one of the best coaches.
Rodney Allen isn't your starting point guard. That says something.
And yeah, you already know that kid's going to be very special.
Yeah, another 40 kid. The thing that I like about Cleveland that a lot of teams don't have is just with how much size they have and how they hit the boards. And I think that's one thing that gets underrated in the playoffs is how well can you rebound. Because if you can rebound well, you're finishing your defensive possessions. You're creating extra opportunities for your team. So, I mean, for a team who may not shoot the ball that well, if you can rebound really well, that's very important. And with the size they have, there's not a lot of teams who can match up with that, especially now that Jace Barrett's back into the fold. I mean, you look at it, they could potentially have a lineup where they go, with a Baron Williams and then go Dylan Smith, Jace Barrett, Trey Fields, and Dylan Wiggins. And all of those guys can dribble, shoot the ball, and rebound really well effectively. As well as they also have Caden Morris, 6'8", on the bench as well. Cam Goins, Noah McLamb has made some huge strides. To me, I think they have a great chance. New Hanover, once again, they're deep. I think they can go 10 or 11 deep. Richmond has 5 guys who can absolutely put the ball in the cup, especially with Paul McNeil, who might be the best player in 4A right now, especially in the 4A East. I mean, it's going to be interesting. And Conley that has that style that if they can get a 6-7 point lead, man, it feels like it's more like 15 or 20, just the style that they play. They're so disciplined. They play, for people who are fans of the podcast, they play a very similar style to South Johnston and Brody Massagill with the way how disciplined they are. And they can win rock fights as well as, potentially some shootouts as well.
I say the most interesting matchup of round one, though, is Hoggard and Laney playing again. Those teams just, for some reason, they always comes down to the final possession with those two teams. So that might be an interesting one. Also want to talk about.
Wilmington has been getting overlooked a lot, but Wilmington has put together some really good basketball teams this year.
Boys and
very bright future.
Absolutely. I also like a potential upset I could see potentially is Hope County against Athens Drive. Hope County is a very talented team. Jalen Sturdivant and Salah Sutton, the Leggett twins. They're a very talented group. And, Rayner too. I mean, they've got a really good rotation. If they're shooting the ball well, they can give Athens Drive trouble. But Athens Drive is also really good too. But Apex Friendship is another team they've had a good season. Holly Springs has been excellent. They're an athletic team that Cleveland would have to see in round 2, assuming they beat Leesville Road. Leesville Road also has 7-footer Wesley Johnson. So those are, I mean, if I like Cleveland's road, but if they got, I feel like I really like Pinecrest. I know they lost to Richmond earlier, like in the conference championship, but I like watching Pinecrest play. They defend their tails off. And a Pinecrest and Conley matchup, that's probably the rock fight you're looking for. That's going to be a low-scoring battle probably because both teams defend well and are very disciplined. Overall,
Cleveland also beat Pinecrest as well too. Beat them by 10
yes,
points here.
yes, that's right. That's right. That's why that's one of their most impressive wins too, beating Pinecrest. So honestly, for the cup, I guess for a final thought before we end this episode, who ultimately do you think has the best chance from making a deep playoff run? And yeah, that's pretty much the question.
To me, I like Goldsboro. Goldsboro has the best chance. You know, Torrey Face has been one of the best players in the state this year with what he's been able to do. And I think this is his time. This is the moment to show that he's one of the best, especially you start with big matchup there in the Cougar Den against one of the top 2024 players, not just in the state, but in the nation with Jaron Stevenson. If he's able to beat him as well as show that he outplay him as well, I think that would be a big time. You know, Taj Jordan has been playing great as well. To me, they have the best chance just on the fact of the brackets lined up best for them. Cleveland, I think, has probably the second best chance. Green Central, I like the draw that they got as well. And, you know, I wouldn't discount Princeton possibly making it back to the third round again for the pretty much, I would say, pretty much the fourth straight year, essentially. Third straight year, excuse me. Last year, I believe last year they made it to the second round, but technically that would have been the third round. But there's a lot of teams, I think, who have a chance. Southern Wayne girls probably have the best chance of the girls. A lot of good teams that have potential here in the WJG area that they can have a deep playoff run. It's just all about how do you handle the pressure when it comes.
And one last prediction from you. Will a private school team make it to Mount Olive next week? Will at least one team make it there? I know it's tough. It's tough.
I'm gonna say the Wanker's Day girls will make it.
I like it. And with that, we have run through the entire NCHSA classification, broke down our initial thoughts on the state playoff brackets, talked a little NCISAA, talked a little bit about, the tough story at East Carteret.
Oh, East Carteret.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of really good stuff today. And honestly, a closing thought for me is the fact that this podcast is back after so long. It's been a while, and hopefully we got more coming for you. We are busy dudes. We are. I mean, we're planning for classic number 3 after the second one was very successful at Goldsboro High. We had a great football season too. The entire fall semester has been kind of rough for both of us. So with that being said, it's good to be back on the Just Like Bruddas podcast.
And please update your basketball playoff times on Max Preps. Please do it.
Yes, let us know when y'all are playing so that we can potentially
come 7 o'clock just because it says 7 o'clock. Change it to 6 if it's gonna be 6. If it's gonna be 7:30, please. That's my
in case you don't know, the Just Like Brothers podcast is on. It is on various podcasting platforms. We'll also have this on YouTube, and we are very close to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is an insane amount of support. We really appreciate that very much. For all boys basketball content, you can subscribe to us on Vimeo. Whether it's a monthly or a season payment, we would appreciate your support on that. And of course, you can find Kai at Kai from WJG on Twitter, WJG Sports on Instagram.
Kai Jones is gone, man. We lost it. One of the fallen soldiers, R.I.P.
Respects. F to pay respects for Kai's lost Twitter account. You can find me at StrikerNation24 _ and Striker Lights on Instagram and Twitter as well for all types of content and stuff like that. So it's great to be back. For Kai Jones, my name is Leica BB, aka Striker, and I don't know what Kai is doing, but this has been the Just Like Brothers podcast, and we are back. See you again soon.